Lola had 10 seconds to decide: let her ex drag her back to hell, or trust the dangerous stranger whose body just came alive beneath her hands. Minjun's grip on her wrist was firm but not painful as he pulled her closer in the bathroom. His other hand tilted her chin up, forcing her to meet eyes that burned with something between desperation and hunger. "You touched my manhood accidentally in public," he said, voice raw with need. "Do it again now in private." Deliberately this time. Lola's pulse hammered against her throat. This was insane. She didn't know this man. What's wrong with you? Why are you? Just do it." His voice cracked. "Please. I'll explain later. Just touch me again." She felt the heat radiating off his body, felt the undeniable evidence of his arousal pressing against her hip where he'd pulled her close. Outside the bathroom door, she could hear Chaik's voice getting closer, calling her name with that possessive edge she knew too well. "Let me go," she whispered, but her body betrayed her, leaning into the stranger instead of pulling away. "I will. After you hear my offer." His thumb brushed across her lower lip, sending electricity straight through her. "One touch. Right now. You name your price, any amount, and I'll transfer it before you leave this bathroom." The ex who'd nearly killed her was seconds away. The man she'd crossed an ocean to escape. Minjun's eyes held hers. 10 seconds, Lola. Choose. Hey family, if you want to find out whether Lola chooses the devil she knows or the stranger whose body just betrayed 3 years of silence at her touch, and discover the dark secret that makes her worth a fortune to Seoul's most dangerous man, smash that subscribe button right now because things are about to get crazy. For hours earlier, Lola Adeyemi had been checking the guest list for the 5th time, her finger trembling as it scrolled down the tablet screen. "Please don't be here. Please don't be here. Please." There. Chaika Konkwo. Her stomach dropped. The Latte Hotel ballroom suddenly felt too small, too hot, the crystal chandeliers too bright above the Seoul elite mingling with champagne flutes and practiced smiles. She was supposed to be coordinating this art gala, not having a panic attack. Across the room, Min Jun Park sat alone in the VIP section, a glass of whiskey untouched on the table before him. He scrolled through his phone with the kind of focused intensity that made the bodyguard standing at a respectful distance seem almost unnecessary. Another medical report. Another specialist saying the same thing: permanent nerve damage, psychological trauma, no known cure. 3 years. 3 years of feeling like half a man. Lola didn't notice when Chaik entered. She was too busy trying to breathe, trying to remember the escape routes she'd mapped out when she'd taken this job. But she felt it, that prickling awareness that made her skin crawl. She looked up. Their eyes met across the crowded ballroom. His face transformed. Not anger, something worse. Joy. Possessive, obsessive joy. The memory hit her like a physical blow. Legos. Their apartment. His hands around her throat. "You think you can leave me? You're mine." Her vision going dark, lungs burning, grabbing the broken bottle from the floor, the satisfying resistance as glass bit into his arm, his scream, running, running, running. She stumbled backward, her heel catching on something. The world tilted. And then she was falling into someone's lap. Her palm landed directly on his groin. Time fractured. Min Jun's entire body went rigid beneath her. His phone clattered to the floor. Every muscle locked as sensation, pure, impossible, miraculous sensation, flooded through him for the first time in 3 years. His sharp intake of breath was audible even over the string quartet. Lola scrambled up, mortified, apologizing in frantic Korean. "Josong Hanada. I'm so sorry I didn't." But Min Jun wasn't listening. He was staring at where she'd touched him, then at his lap, then at her face. His expression was pure shock. Wonder. Disbelief. Because he was hard. For the first time in 3 years, he was actually hard. Lola saw Chaik cutting through the crowd toward them and ran. She didn't think, didn't plan, just ran for the bathroom, her only thought escape. She heard footsteps behind her and assumed it was Chaik until a hand caught the bathroom door before it could close. Min Jun slipped inside. "Wait," he said. That's when Chaik's voice echoed from outside. "Lola. I know you're in there." And Minjun had made his offer. His insane, impossible offer. Now Lola stared at him, this beautiful stranger with desperate eyes, and heard would beginning to splinter as Chaik threw his weight against the door. How much? She heard herself ask. 20 million won. Your account number. Now. That was roughly 16,000 US dollars. Significant money, but not enough, not nearly enough for what her mother needed. But it was something. It was hope. You're serious? Give me your account number. The door shuddered. Chaik's voice, Lola. She rattled off the numbers, not believing this was real. Minjun's fingers flew across his phone screen. 3 seconds later, her phone buzzed in her clutch. Transfer complete. 20 million Korean wons. Now, Minjun said, voice rough with need, touch me again. Prove this is real. Lola reached out, palm pressing against him through his expensive suit pants. She felt him harden instantly beneath her touch, felt his sharp intake of breath, felt him respond in a way that seemed to shock him as much as it shocked her. It's real, she whispered. The bathroom door burst open. Chaik stood in the doorway, face flushed with exertion and rage. He saw them, Lola's hand on the stranger, the intimate proximity, and fury transformed his features into something ugly. Who the fuck are you? Chaik demanded, stepping forward. Minjun moved between them in one fluid motion. The change in his demeanor was instant, terrifying. Gone was the desperate man from moments ago. This was something else entirely. Leave, Minjun said quietly. Now. I don't know who you think you are, but Lola is. Chaik lunged. Minjun's hand shot out, caught Chaik's wrist, and twisted. The crack of bone was audible. Chaik screamed, dropping to his knees. Minjun leaned down, voice low and deadly. Seoul is my city. You're just visiting. I suggest you leave tonight. Because if I see you near her again, I won't be this gentle. He released Chaik, who scrambled backward, cradling his wrist. Minjun turned to Lola, and just like that, he was gentle again. Are you okay? She nodded, unable to speak, shocked by the violence she'd just witnessed. He pulled a business card from his jacket, pressed it into her hand. When you're ready to understand what just happened here, call me. Then he walked out, leaving Chaik crumpled on the bathroom floor and Lola staring at the card in her trembling hand. The morning after the gala, Minjun stood in his Hanamdong penthouse, watching the Han River glitter in the early light. Seoul sprawled below him, his city, built from nothing after he'd been orphaned at 12. The floor-to-ceiling windows reflected his image back at him, tailored shirt, expensive watch, a man who looked like he had everything. Except he'd been broken for 3 years. The dossier sat open on his marble counter. His security chief had worked fast. Lola Adeyemi. Age 26. Nigerian national. Event coordinator. Father, Samuel Adeyemi, deceased, murdered June 2020, Lagos. Minjun paused at the name. Samuel Adeyemi. Something about it tugged at his memory, like a word on the tip of his tongue. He shook it off, continued reading. Mother, Grace Adeyemi, critical condition, heart failure, surgery required, Korean 135,000,000, total cost for surgery. Restraining order filed against Chaik Okonkwo 6 months ago before relocating to Seoul. So she was desperate. Running from an abuser, mother dying, alone in a foreign country. And last night, she'd given him a miracle. His security chief entered. Chaik Okonkwo is at Incheon Airport. Our people encouraged his departure. He'll stay in Lagos. He'll be back, Minjun said quietly. His type always comes back. I want 24/7 surveillance on Lola Adeyemi. Best team. Invisible protection. Sir, may I ask why we're protecting a civilian? Minjun touched his belt, remembering the sensation of her palm against him. The impossible hardness after 3 years of nothing. Because she's the first miracle I've had in 3 years. I'm not losing her. Across the city in Itaewon, Lola woke to the smell of kimchi from her neighbor's apartment. Her officelle was barely larger than a closet, one room with peeling paint, a hot plate, clothes drying on a tiny balcony. She'd taken it because it was all she could afford while sending most of her salary to Lagos. She checked her phone. The 20 million Korean wons was still there. Real money from a surreal night. She took line 6 to Samgak Station, then caught the bus to Gangnam for work, watching Seoul blur past the window. Office workers with tired eyes. Students with heavy backpacks. A city of millions, and she'd never felt more alone. Until last night. At her desk, she called Lagos Hospital. Ms. Adeyemi. The doctor sounded pleased. Wonderful news. You made the deposit. We can schedule your mother's surgery now. Once you have the remaining 15 million won, we'll proceed. You have 10 days. 10 days before we reschedule. 15 million Korean wons more. Impossible. Thank you, doctor. After hanging up, her phone rang immediately. Unknown number. Hello. This is going to sound strange. Minjun's voice was warm, almost uncertain. But I can't stop thinking about last night. About what happened. Lola's heart stuttered. How did you get my number? The gala registration. I apologize if that's invasive. Can we talk? Just coffee. Public place. I can explain everything. She should say no. Should delete his contact and forget the whole insane night. What do you want from me? Just to talk. To understand. No obligations. I promise. Long silence. Seoul traffic hummed outside her office window. Tomorrow. 2 p.m. In Sedong. There's a traditional tea house called Suyeon Sanbang. I'll be there. After she hung up, her phone rang again. This time, she answered to hear her mother's voice, weak but warm. Lola, my precious daughter. The doctor said you made the deposit. How did you manage it? I helped someone, Mama. Just help someone. You have your father's heart. Always helping others. Grace's voice cracked with emotion. He would be so proud of you. Lola's eyes filled with tears. I miss him, Mama. I know, baby. I know. But he's watching over us. I feel it. After the call ended, Lola sat staring at Minjun's business card. Elegant, expensive. Just his name and a phone number. No company, no title. What kind of man pays 20 million Korean wons for a touch? The next afternoon, Lola found Suyeon Sanbang tucked into Bukshin Hanok village. Traditional wooden beams, the scent of jujube tea, tourists outside photographing the historic houses. Minjun was already there, sitting on floor cushions, looking nervous. That surprised her. Last night he'd been commanding, dangerous. Today he looked almost vulnerable. She sat across from him. Tea steamed between them. Thank you for coming, he said. You said you'd explain. So explain. Minjun took a breath, and she watched him struggle with where to begin. 3 years ago, I was poisoned. By someone I trusted. The toxin didn't kill me, but it left me with damage. What kind of damage? Erectile dysfunction. Complete. Permanent, according to every doctor I've seen. He finally met her eyes. For 3 years, I've felt less than human. Broken. Then you stumbled into my lap at that gala, and your palm touched me, and... He stopped, jaw working. And what? I felt whole for the first time in 3 years. Lola processed this, skeptical. So you think I'm some kind of cure? I don't know what you are. But I need to understand why it worked. Why only you? He leaned forward slightly. I'll pay you 15 million won for 1 month. That's the exact amount you still need for your mother's surgery. 3 times a week. Just touch me like you did at the gala. That's all I'm asking. Her heart pounded. And if I refuse? He showed her his phone screen. Then I transfer 5 million to your account right now anyway. For giving me hope. Why me? You're clearly wealthy. You could hire anyone. Because no one else worked, Minjun said simply. In 3 years of trying everything, searching everywhere, you're the only miracle I've found. The only one who's ever made my body respond. Something in his vulnerability made her believe him. What do you really do for work? First test. She watched him carefully. Private security. I protect people who need protection. From what? From people who want to hurt them. Not a lie, she sensed. But not the whole truth either. Are you dangerous? Minjun thought of the men he'd killed, the blood on his hands, the empire he'd built in Seoul's shadows. Not to you, he said quietly. Never to you. Lola stared at the tea between them, at this beautiful stranger offering her an impossible deal. Her mother had 10 days. She had no other options. 1 month, she said finally. 15 million won. 3 sessions per week. But strictly professional. No personal questions. No expectations beyond what we agree to. Agreed. When can we start? She met his eyes. Tomorrow. 3 p.m. Send me the address. After she left, Min-jun sat alone in the tea house, hope burning in his chest for the first time in 3 years. He immediately called his intelligence chief. Chika Konkwo in Lagos. I want full surveillance. Who he talks to, where he goes, everyone he meets. He'll come back to Seoul, and when he does, I want to know what he's planning. Because men like Chike always came back. And Min-jun would be ready. In a sleek Gangnam office overlooking the COX district, Kang Dae-sung watched surveillance footage from the gala. 55 years old, elegant in a custom suit, he had the kind of face that revealed nothing. He paused the video on Min-jun following Lola to the bathroom. His associate entered. Chika Konkwo is in Lagos. Angry. Humiliated. Perfect. Dae-sung smiled without warmth. Angry men make useful tools. Send him this. He slid an encrypted phone across the desk. On its screen was a complete dossier on Min-jun Park, operations, territory, weaknesses. And one flagged item, assignment log, June 2020, Lagos, Nigeria, target, Samuel Adeyemi. What's your play? The associate asked. Patience. Chike will come back burning for revenge. When he does, we'll give him exactly what he wants. And use him to destroy Min-jun in the process. In Lagos, Chike sat in his family's compound, nursing his wrist in a cast and his pride in pieces. The encrypted phone arrived by courier. He opened the file on Min-jun Park. Read about the Seoul Mafia connections, the territory, the money. Then he reached the flagged assignment. Target, Samuel Adeyemi, Lagos taxi driver. Witness to illegal arms transaction. Assignment, termination. Chike's breath caught. He clicked the attached surveillance photo. A younger Min-jun in tactical gear, night vision, gun pointed directly at a terrified man in a taxi. He zoomed in on the driver's face. Samuel Adeyemi. Lola's father. Chike's smile spread slowly across his face. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. He dialed the number included in the file. When do I come back to Seoul? He asked when Dae-sung answered. 2 weeks. Let them fall in love first. The deeper the love, the more devastating the truth. 2 days later, Lola arrived at the Gangnam Finance Center. 42nd floor. Glass walls overlooking the Han River and Seoul Tower glowing in the distance. Security had checked her ID downstairs, and now she stood outside a private room off Min-jun's main office. Her hand hovered over the door handle. What was she doing? Agreeing to touch a stranger's body for money? But Mama had 8 days left, and desperation made people do impossible things. She knocked. Come in. Min-jun stood by the window, still in his suit from whatever business he'd been conducting. When he turned, she saw the same nervousness from the tea house. Thank you for coming, he said. You're paying me 15 million won. Let's just start. Defensive walls up. Professionalism as armor. Of course. Sit wherever you're comfortable. She chose the chair across from him. He sat. They stared at each other across 3 feet of charged space. Excruciating silence. So I just. However feels natural to you. More silence. This was mortifying. Then Lola surprised herself by laughing, nervous, real, breaking through her own tension. I'm sorry. This is the weirdest job I've ever had. Min-jun's face cracked into a genuine smile. Me too. The ice broke slightly. Okay. She took a breath. So I just touch me. Anywhere. However. There's no right way. Lola reached out slowly. Her hand hovered over his thigh. She could feel the heat of him even through the expensive fabric. It's okay, he said softly. Her palm landed on his thigh. Min-jun's sharp inhale filled the quiet room. Beneath her hand, she felt him respond. Felt him growing hard, pressing against the fabric of his pants. The evidence of his arousal was unmistakable, and the wonder on his face was genuine. It's really happening, she whispered. Only with you. His voice was rough. 3 years of nothing. 3 seconds of you. They stayed frozen like that, her palm on his thigh, his body responding in ways he'd thought impossible. Souls sprawled below them through the windows, millions of people going about their lives, unaware of this strange, intimate moment 42 floors above them. 5 minutes passed. Neither wanted it to end. A timer buzzed softly on Minjun's phone. Lola pulled back, and the loss of contact felt physical. Same time in 2 days, she asked. Please. As she reached the door, Minjun called out. Lola? Thank you. For making me feel human again. She paused, hand on the doorknob, not turning back. You're welcome. 2 weeks passed. The sessions became routine, though routine felt like the wrong word for something so charged with unspoken tension. By the 5th session, Lola felt comfortable enough to ask the question that had been building. Would you be comfortable meeting somewhere else? My office feels too clinical. Where? She asked. My home. If that's not too uncomfortable. She hesitated. His home was more intimate, more personal. But she nodded. Okay. His Hanamdong penthouse shocked her. Floor-to-ceiling windows, modern art on the walls, the Han River glittering below like a ribbon of light. Namsan Tower glowed in the distance. You live here alone? I've never had anyone to share it with. The session happened in his living room this time. The change of venue shifted something between them. When she touched him now skin to skin, they'd progressed past clothing. It felt less like a transaction and more like something else entirely. Something neither of them wanted to name. After he came in her hands, his body shuddering with release, Lola asked quietly, Can I use your bathroom? Down the hall. Second door. In his bathroom, she washed her hands and saw the evidence of his solitary life. One toothbrush. Expensive cologne. No signs of anyone else ever. She found him on the balcony when she returned, soul spread out beneath him. The view is beautiful, she said. It's my city. I built my life here. Pride colored his voice. When I had nothing, Soul gave me everything. For the first time, Lola saw him as more than just a transaction. She saw loneliness that matched her own. As she left that evening, she didn't notice the black SUV parked across the street. Didn't see the surveillance team photographing her exit. The team leader called Daesung immediately. She's leaving his residence. They're definitely involved. Good, Daesung said. Let it develop naturally. Deep love makes better destruction. 3 weeks into their arrangement, everything changed. Lola arrived to find a small gift box on the table. What's this? Open it. Inside was Nigerian suya spice, authentic, expensive, imported from Lagos. Her eyes filled with tears. How did you know I missed this? You mentioned it once. In passing. So I had it imported. She stared at him. You remembered. I remember everything you tell me. The session started as usual. She wrapped her hand around him, felt him harden in her palm. But then Minjun reached out, cupped her face with trembling fingers. Can I kiss you? Every professional boundary screamed at her to say no. This wasn't part of their agreement. This crossed lines that shouldn't be crossed. But she nodded. The kiss was gentle at first. Tentative. Then it deepened, became desperate. His hand tangled in her hair. Her hand still wrapped around him, stroking while they kissed. When he came, it was while his tongue was in her mouth, and somehow that felt more intimate than anything they'd done before. They pulled apart, both breathing hard. That wasn't part of our agreement, Lola whispered. I know. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. She leaned back in, kissed him again. Just don't stop. The session went 20 minutes over. Neither of them cared. If you're wondering how much deeper this arrangement is about to get, kindly smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't, because trust me, you haven't seen anything yet. Week 4 brought a shift neither of them acknowledged but both felt. After a particularly intense session, kissing that turned into grinding through clothes, his hands on her waist, her breath in his ear, Minjun asked the question that had been building. Stay for dinner. Please. Minjun, that's not part of. I know. But I want to know you beyond these sessions. Please. I'll cook. She should say no. should maintain the boundaries that were already dissolving. What are you cooking? I was going to attempt jollof rice. But given my skills, we'll probably end up ordering delivery. Despite herself, she laughed. Okay, dinner. He burned the jollof spectacularly. Smoke filled his pristine kitchen. The rice stuck to the bottom of the pot in a blackened mess, and Lola laughed so hard tears streamed down her face. I tried, Minjun said, looking genuinely distressed at the disaster. You really did, she managed between gasps of laughter. They ordered Korean fried chicken from Bonkin instead and took it to his balcony. Seoul sprawled below them, the tower glowing against the night sky. Distant K-pop drifted from a neighbor's apartment. Summer cicadas sang in the warm air. Tell me about your dreams, Minjun said. The real ones. Lola picked at her chicken. I want to start an event company. Afro-Korean cultural fusion. Bringing both worlds together through food, music, art. Seoul has such a small but vibrant African community. I want to celebrate that. That's beautiful. What about you? What did you dream of when you had nothing? Minjun's expression shifted, something darker crossing his features. Survival first. Then power. Then. He gestured at the penthouse. All of this. But somewhere along the way, I forgot what it was for. You're so alone here, Lola observed quietly. I've been broken for 3 years. Didn't feel right bringing anyone into that. You're not broken. I was. He looked at her, and the vulnerability in his eyes made her chest ache. Until you. Heavy silence settled between them. Seoul hummed below, traffic, voices, life continuing while they sat suspended in this moment. I should go home, Lola said, but she didn't move. Stay. The word came out raw, honest. Guest room. Separate. I don't want you to leave yet. She knew this was dangerous. Knew they were crossing into something neither of them could take back. Just tonight, she whispered. At 2 in the morning, Lola couldn't sleep. The guest room was bigger than her entire office dell, with sheets that probably cost more than her monthly rent. But comfort wasn't the problem. She kept thinking about Minjun down the hall. About the loneliness in his voice. About how his touch had become the safest thing in her world. Before she could talk herself out of it, she walked to his room. Knocked softly. He opened immediately. Shirtless, hair mussed, clearly as awake as she was. I keep thinking about you, she confessed. Same, he breathed. She stepped into his room. They climbed into his bed fully clothed, and he pulled her against his chest. His heartbeat was steady beneath her ear. His arms wrapped around her like a promise. They didn't have sex. Didn't even kiss. Just held each other as Seoul's night sounds filtered through the windows. It was more intimate than any session had been. Dawn broke over the Han River in shades of gold and pink. Lola woke in Minjun's arms, and for one perfect moment, everything felt right. Then reality intruded. She tried to slip out of bed. His arms tightened. Stay. Minjun, this is getting complicated. I don't want this to be a transaction anymore. He turned her to face him, and the intensity in his eyes stole her breath. I don't want to pay you. I don't want sessions. I just want you. Then what do you want? You. Just you. In whatever way you'll have me. I'm scared, she admitted. Of how fast this is happening. Of how much I'm starting to feel. Then we feel it together. She kissed him, and this time it wasn't tentative. This time it was answer and question all at once. Minjun worshipped her slowly. He unbuttoned her borrowed sleep shirt with trembling fingers, kissed every inch of skin he revealed. When his mouth moved between her thighs, Lola gasped. What are you? Let me make you feel good, he murmured against her skin. Please. She'd never felt anything like it. No one had ever focused on her pleasure like this. When the orgasm hit, she cried from the intensity of it, from feeling cherished instead of used. I've got you, Minjun whispered, kissing her tears. I've got you. When he finally entered her, they both froze at the sensation. You feel incredible, he groaned. She couldn't finish the thought. It's never felt like this. Like I matter. You're everything. He started moving, slow and deep. Your pleasure is everything to me. They made love as Seoul woke up outside his windows. Not just sex, something deeper, something that felt like breaking and healing all at once. Afterward, wrapped in his sheets with morning light streaming across them, Minjun said the words that changed everything. "Move in with me." "What?" "I know it's fast. I know we barely know each other. But Lola, I can't imagine waking up without you anymore. Move in. Be with me." She should say no. Should be practical, cautious, smart. "Yes," she heard herself say. "Yes, I'll move in." While she showered, Minjun went to his home office. He needed to set something up for her, the business fund he'd been planning. But first, he had to check something that had been nagging at him. He opened his encrypted database. Typed, Samuel Adeyemi, Lagos, 2020. The file loaded, and Minjun's blood turned to ice. Assignment log, June 2020. Target, Samuel Adeyemi, taxi driver. Witness to illegal arms transaction. Assignment, termination. Assigned operative, Minjun Park. Status, refused. Park walked away from assignment. Resolution, alternate operative deployed. Target eliminated June 16, 2020. The surveillance photo was damning. A younger him in tactical gear, gun pointed at a terrified man in a taxi. He zoomed in on the man's face. Samuel Adeyemi, Lola's father. The man he'd been sent to kill. The man he couldn't murder but also didn't save. The man who died anyway because Minjun had been too much of a coward to either pull the trigger or warn him. He was in love with the daughter of his greatest failure. Minjun closed the laptop, hands shaking. From the bathroom, he could hear the shower running, hear Lola humming something cheerful. She was happy, in love, planning a future with him. And she had no idea he'd been sent to kill her father. He should tell her. Right now. Should confess everything and face the consequences. But the words wouldn't come. Fear choked them before they could form. So Minjun did what cowards do. He saved the file to his encrypted drive, closed the laptop, and went to shower with the woman he loved. Already lying through his silence. 2 days later, Lola's phone rang while she was packing her few belongings from the office cell. "Ms. Adeyemi, wonderful news." The Lagos doctor sounded jubilant. An anonymous donor paid the remaining 15 million won plus recovery costs. "Your mother's second surgery is scheduled for tomorrow morning." Lola's hands froze on the clothes she'd been folding. "Who is the donor?" "Anonymous. But your mother is going to live." After hanging up, she found Minjun in his home office. He looked up from his laptop, and she saw the truth in his eyes before she even asked. "You paid for the whole surgery." "I did." "Why?" "That wasn't part of our arrangement." "Because I love you." The words came out simple, certain. And people who love each other take care of each other's families. First time he'd said it. First time those words had hung in the air between them. "You love me." Completely. Terrifyingly. Can you?" "Yes." She crossed to him, cupped his face in her hands. "God, yes. I love you too." They made love right there, celebrating. Grateful. Connected in ways that went beyond physical. The next day, Grace Adeyemi's surgery was successful. Lola video called from Seoul, tears streaming as she saw her mother's weak, but smiling face in the recovery room. "He sounds wonderful, my daughter," Grace said after Lola told her about Minjun. "Your father would approve of a man who takes care of his family." If only she knew the truth about what Minjun had almost done to that father. The following weeks were paradise. Lola moved her few possessions into Minjun's penthouse, and they fell into a rhythm that felt like it had always existed. Morning coffee on the balcony watching the Han River. Her teaching him to cook Nigerian food with only slightly less disastrous results. Shower intimacy that left them both breathless. Video calls with her recovering mother who grew stronger each day. At night, Minjun would work while Lola sketched designs for her dream event company. She didn't know he'd secretly set up a 50 million won business fund in her name, waiting for the right moment to tell her. They made love like they were running out of time, which, though neither knew it yet, they were. But cracks were forming. Week 2 of living together, Lola woke at 3 in the morning to Minjun thrashing beside her. Sweat soaked his skin. His voice came out in broken fragments. "No. I can't. Please don't make me." She shook him awake. "Minjun. You're dreaming. He jerked conscious, taking several seconds to recognize where he was. His hands were shaking. What were you dreaming about? Things I can't change. Mistakes I made. We all have pasts, she said, holding him. If only she knew how literally those pasts were connected. The nightmares became a pattern. 3-4 times a week. Specific dreams he wouldn't detail, but that left him haunted during the day. He grew jumpy at sudden sounds. His phone buzzed constantly, and he checked it obsessively. Lola also noticed her own body changing. Nausea hit her most mornings, though she dismissed it as stress. Her breasts felt tender. Exhaustion dogged her despite sleeping well. She ignored all of it, too happy to let worry intrude. One morning she found Min-jun at 5 a.m., staring at his laptop with an expression that made her stomach drop. What are you looking at? He closed it so fast the screen cracked. Work stuff. At 5 in the morning? Couldn't sleep. Thought I'd catch up. She knew he was lying. Could see it in his eyes, in the tension in his shoulders. But she didn't push. Not yet. Week 3 brought Zainab flying in from Lagos to visit. Lola's best friend, sharp-eyed, journalist-trained, impossible to fool. Min-jun pulled out all the stops for dinner. Catered Korean-Nigerian fusion food from Seoul's best restaurants. Expensive wine. Charm that felt slightly too polished. But Zainab noticed things. The bodyguard at the building entrance who was clearly more than an assistant. The waitstaff deferred to Min-jun with fear-tinged respect. His phone buzzing constantly during dinner, which he ignored until one call made him excuse himself. From the balcony, they heard his voice. Handle it quietly. No traces. Later, after Min-jun had gone to bed, Zainab cornered Lola in the guest room. He's wonderful. I see why you love him. But Lola. What? What does he actually do? Really? Security consulting. Private protection for high-level clients. That's not a real answer. Zainab's journalist instincts were firing. Have you Googled him? Really looked. I trust him. Trust is good. But eyes-open trust is better. Just ask real questions. Okay. Lola promised, resentful of the doubt Zainab had planted. That night, she couldn't sleep. Min-jun's words echoed. Handle it quietly. No traces. What needed to be handled? What traces? She got up, found his laptop in the living room. Tried his birthday as the password. Wrong. Tried their names combined. Wrong. She gave up, but the seed of doubt had been planted and was already taking root. The next morning, Lola did what she should have done from the beginning. She Googled Min-jun Park Seoul. Page 1 showed legitimate business articles. Charity donations. Photos at galas. Page 3 had a cached article, partially deleted. The headline made her breath catch. Alleged crime figure denies accusations. She clicked it. Most of the text was gone, but fragments remained. Park's organization and territory disputes and connections to organized crime. She took a screenshot with shaking hands. Then searched Min-jun Park Gangnam Security. More fragments. Forum posts quickly deleted. Photos of him with men whose faces she recognized from news reports about criminal investigations. Nothing concrete, but a pattern. She called Zainab. You were right. Can you use your journalism contacts? Dig deeper into Min-jun Park. Are you sure you want to know? I'm in love with him, Zainab. I need to know the truth. I'll make calls. But Lola, if I find something bad, then I need to know. What Lola didn't know was that Min-jun's network security monitored all internet activity on his Wi-Fi. He received an alert within minutes. Search history for his name, screenshots taken, phone call to Zainab Okafor flagged. He knew she was investigating him. He knew time was running out. That afternoon, Min-jun made his decision. Tomorrow night. Elaborate dinner. Complete honesty. He would tell her everything about the Mafia, about his past, about the assignment in Lagos. He would risk losing her but stop the lies. He'd tell her tomorrow. He didn't know tomorrow was already too late. Because across the city, a package was being prepared. Photos from 3 years ago. Documents proving every lie. A note that would destroy everything. And it was already on its way to his penthouse. Hit that like button if you can feel the storm coming, because what happens next will shatter everything they've built. The next afternoon, Lola was home alone when the doorbell rang. A delivery driver stood there with a plain package, no return address. She signed for it absently, thinking it was something Minjun had ordered. Opened it on the kitchen counter while checking her phone. Then the world stopped. Inside were photographs. The first showed a younger Minjun in tactical gear, night vision equipment, face harder than she'd ever seen it. The second showed him holding a gun. The third showed him pointing that gun directly at a man in a taxi. Her hands shook as she picked up the photo, brought it closer. The location stamp read, Lagos, Nigeria. The date, June 13, 2020. 3 days before her father was murdered. She grabbed the next photo with numb fingers. A close-up of the man in the taxi, terror stark on his face. Samuel Adeyemi. Her father. The room tilted. She gripped the counter to stay upright. More photos spilled out. Minjun with men she recognized from news reports about organized crime. Documents, organizational charts, territory maps, financial records proving his security company was a front. And a note, handwritten in neat script, he was sent to kill your father. 3 days later, someone finished the job. Ask him why he's been fucking you while hiding he was assigned to murder the man who raised you. Someone who knows. Lola couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. The man she loved, the man inside her body, the man she'd trusted with everything, had been sent to kill her father. She ran to the bathroom and vomited until there was nothing left. Her phone rang. Zainab. She answered with shaking hands. Lola, my contacts found something. Zainab's voice was tight with anger. Minjun Park, he's not security. He's organized crime. One of Seoul's most dangerous. And there's a connection to Lagos, June 2020. I know. Lola's voice sounded dead even to her own ears. I'm looking at photos right now. Of him. With a gun. Pointed at my father. Silence on the line. Then the front door opened. Lola? Minjun's voice called out. I'm home early. I have something I need to tell you. He appeared in the kitchen doorway. Saw the opened package on the counter. Saw the photos spread across the marble. Saw her holding the image of him pointing a gun at Samuel Adeyemi. The color drained from his face. Lola. She held up the photo with a hand that wouldn't stop shaking. Tell me this isn't you. He couldn't speak. Tell me. The scream tore from her throat. It's me. The words came out broken. But Lola, I didn't. You had a gun pointed at my father. Yes. 3 days before he was murdered. Yes. Were you sent to kill him? The pause was enough. Then, yes. The word destroyed her. She sank to the floor, the photo falling from her fingers. Did you pull the trigger? No. I couldn't. When I saw him, just a man trying to survive, family photo on his dashboard, I couldn't do it. I walked away from the organization entirely because I couldn't kill an innocent man. But someone else did. Yes. They sent someone else. He died because I was a coward. I couldn't kill him, but I couldn't save him either. Lola looked up at him, and Minjun had never seen such devastation on a human face. And you knew. This whole time. Every time we made love. Every time you held me. Every time I talked about my father and cried because I missed him, you knew. I found out 3 weeks ago. I was going to tell you tonight. I swear I had this whole plan. Tonight? Tonight? She stood, fury replacing the shock. We've been together 2 months. Living together. I've been in love with you, planning a future, and you knew you were sent to kill my father. She threw the photo at him. It hit his chest and fell to the floor. Everything was a lie. Your work, your life, everything. Not how I feel about you. Never that. Don't. The word cracked like a whip. You're Mafia. The same world that killed my father. The same violence, same crime that destroyed my family. And you brought me into it. You made me fall in love with you while hiding you're exactly what killed him. I'm not that person anymore. Yes, you are. You're still doing it. I saw that text. Handle it quietly, no traces. You're still killing people. Those were men Chaik sent to hurt you. I was protecting you from Chaik. New horror dawned on her face. Chaik is here? In Seoul? He's working with my enemy, Daesung. They're the ones who sent this package. They want to destroy us. They don't need to destroy us. You did that yourself. She grabbed her purse from the counter. With every single lie. Where are you going? Away from you. Lola, it's not safe. Daesung is planning something. You can't just. I don't care. Anywhere is safer than here with you. Rain had started outside, heavy summer downpour hammering the windows. Thunder rolled in the distance. She headed for the door. Minjun followed, desperation making him reckless. Please. Just let me explain everything. Let me tell you. She turned on him, and the look in her eyes cut deeper than any blade. You're just like Chaik. Obsessive. Controlling. Lying about who you are to trap me. I thought you were different. I thought you were safe. I'm nothing like him. You're worse. Her voice broke. Because I actually loved you. And you knew about my father, knew you were sent to kill him, and you still let me love you while keeping that secret. Every kiss was a lie. Every touch was a betrayal. Thunder crashed directly overhead. The lights flickered. I hate you, she whispered. I hate what you are. I hate that I let you inside me. I hate that I gave you everything. Lola, please. But she was already gone, running out into the rain. Minjun stood in the doorway, watching her disappear into the downpour. Rain soaked through his clothes, plastered his hair to his head. He pulled out his phone with numb fingers. She just left. She's in danger. I need every available unit on her now. And find Daesung, this has his fingerprints all over it. He went back inside, surrounded by the scattered photos of his greatest sin. Picked up the image of Samuel Adeyemi, the fear stark on the man's face. I'm sorry, he whispered to the photograph. God, I'm so sorry. I should have saved you. I should have told her. I should have been worthy of her. His phone rang. Security chief. Sir, we have a major problem. 6 vehicles pursuing the target. Armed assault team. Professional coordination. It's Daesung's people. They're boxing her in. Minjun's blood turned to ice. How far are you from her? 2 blocks. But sir, they're forcing her into a traffic pattern. We might not be able to. Protect her. Minjun was already running for his car. I don't care what it takes. Keep her safe until I get there. He raced through Seoul's rain-slicked streets, breaking every traffic law, praying to a god he'd stopped believing in years ago. Please. Please let me get there in time. But deep down, he knew. He was already too late. Lola stumbled through the rain toward the main road, tears and water streaming down her face in equal measure. She needed to get away. Needed to think. Needed to breathe without the walls closing in. A taxi pulled up, the elderly driver's face concerned through the rain-speckled window. Latte Hotel Myeongdong, she gasped out as she climbed in. Zainab had checked in there that afternoon after sensing the tension in the penthouse. The driver pulled into traffic, trot music playing softly on the radio. Miss, you okay? Just drive. Please. Seoul blurred past the windows. Rain hammered the roof. Lola pressed her forehead against the cool glass, trying to process what had just happened. The photos. The gun. Her father's terrified face. Minjun had been sent to kill him. Everything, every touch, every kiss, every whispered I love you, had been built on that lie. Miss. The driver's voice had an edge of fear now. I think car is following. The rear window exploded. Glass shattered inward in a glittering spray. Lola screamed, throwing her arms over her head. The driver shouted in Korean, yanking the wheel. A black sedan rammed them from the side. Metal screamed against metal. The taxi spun on the wet Olympic Expressway, tires shrieking. The driver fought for control, but the rain-slicked road gave him nothing to grip. More vehicles appeared. Professional formation. Boxing them in. Another impact from behind. The taxi fishtailed wildly. Hold on, the driver yelled. But there was nothing to hold on to. The sedan struck them again, harder. The taxi broke through the guardrail, metal shrieking as it tore away. For one suspended moment, Lola saw the embankment dropping away beneath them. Then they were tumbling. The world became chaos. Metal crushing. Glass exploding. The sickening crunch of impact after impact. The taxi rolled down the embankment, gravity and momentum turning it into a coffin. They hit a tree with a sound Lola would never forget. Then silence. Just rain hammering what was left of the roof. The taxi's alarm wailing. Distant sirens approaching. Lola hung upside down in her seatbelt, blood running into her eyes from a gash on her forehead. She couldn't move her left arm. Pain radiated from her ribs with every breath. The driver wasn't moving. Darkness crept in at the edges of her vision, but one thought cut through the fog. The nausea. The exhaustion. The tender breasts. I'm pregnant. She had to be. 8 weeks, maybe. From that first morning in Minjun's bed when they'd made love as Sol woke up outside his windows. Oh God, the baby. Then the darkness took her. Minjun arrived to chaos. Emergency vehicles lit up the rainy night in strobes of red and blue. His security team was engaged in a firefight with Daesung's men on the expressway above. Police were trying to establish a perimeter. He abandoned his car and ran to the embankment. Below, Lola's taxi was crushed around a tree, 40 feet down. Paramedics were carefully extracting someone from the wreckage. So much blood. Minjun tried to run down the slope. Police grabbed him. Sir, you can't. His voice broke. Are you family? He looked at the officer. What was he? The man who'd caused this? The man who'd lied until it destroyed her? I'm all she has in Seoul. They let him through. He reached the gurney as they were loading her. Her face was pale beneath the blood, her body so still. An oxygen mask covered her nose and mouth. Her left arm bent at an angle that made his stomach turn. Lola. He touched her hand, and it was cold. Baby, stay with me. Please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. Please don't leave. The paramedic pushed him back gently. Sir, we need to transport now. Seoul National University Hospital. Are you coming? Minjun climbed into the ambulance, never taking his eyes off her. Surgery took 7 hours. Minjun sat in the trauma waiting room, still covered in her blood. His men brought fresh clothes. He ignored them. Brought food. He couldn't eat. His security chief reported that Daesung's team had escaped, that 2 of his own men were wounded. He didn't care about any of it. Zainab arrived 4 hours in, having gotten an emergency call from Lola's phone contacts. She saw Minjun and knew immediately who he was. You, she said, voice cold. You're the one she stopped, seeing his face. You love her. More than anything. Then why did you lie to her? Minjun looked at his hands, still stained with Lola's blood. Because I'm a coward. And now she might die hating me. They waited in heavy silence. Hour 7, a surgeon finally emerged. Minjun was on his feet instantly. Is she? She's stable. The surgery went well. We repaired internal bleeding, set fractures in her left arm and 3 ribs. She's incredibly lucky. The crash could have been much worse. Relief hit Minjun so hard his legs nearly gave out. He had to grip the chair to stay upright. Thank God. Can I see her? She's in recovery. But Mr. Park. The doctor paused. There are 2 things you need to know. Time stopped. What things? She's pregnant. Blood work confirmed it. Approximately 8 weeks. We monitored the fetus closely throughout surgery. Miraculously, there's no apparent damage. But we'll need to watch both mother and baby carefully over the next few days. The world tilted on its axis. Pregnant. Lola was carrying his child. Their baby, conceived that first morning when they'd made love as the sun rose over Seoul. Growing inside her while she'd fallen in love with him. While he'd lied to her every single day. Minjun had to sit down. Couldn't process it. Couldn't breathe. She didn't know, Zainab said quietly, her anger forgotten in the shock. She would have told me. Her hormone levels suggest she likely had no idea, the doctor confirmed. It's still early. Our baby. Minjun's voice came out broken. She's carrying our baby and she hates me. Zainab studied him with journalist's eyes that saw too much. Does she have reason to? Yes. He looked up, and the devastation on his face was answer enough. Every reason. What's the second thing? Zainab asked the doctor. She's in a coma. The head trauma was significant. We won't know when or if she'll wake until her brain activity changes. It could be hours. Could be days. Could be longer. Min-jun stood. I need to see her. Soon. She's being moved to ICU now. But Mr. Park, you should prepare yourself. She's been through significant trauma. 8 days blurred together. Min-jun never left the ICU waiting room. His men brought changes of clothes, food he barely touched. He only moved when they allowed him into her room, where he'd sit beside her bed for hours, talking to her unconscious form. I'm here, baby. I'm here and I'm not leaving. He told her everything he should have said before. About the poisoning. About walking away from Daesung's organization because he couldn't kill her father. About finding the file and being too much of a coward to confess. We're having a baby. Our baby Lola. I know you hate me now and you should. But please come back. For our child if not for me. Please. Zainab visited daily. On day 5, she asked him to tell her everything. He did. All of it. You're a coward, she said when he finished. I know. Good. Now stop being one. Sit with her. Tell her what you should have told her before it was too late. Day 8, at 3 in the morning, alarms suddenly blared. Doctors rushed into Lola's room. Min-jun was forced out, watching through the window in terror as they worked over her. Her vitals spiked on the monitors, heart rate, blood pressure, brain activity all surging. 10 minutes that lasted forever. Then the alarm stopped. Her vitals stabilized. A doctor emerged and Min-jun couldn't read his expression. What happened? False alarm. But it's actually good news. Her brain activity is increasing significantly. She might be waking up soon. Hope, terrifying and precious, flooded through him. When? Could be hours. Could be days. But this is the sign we've been waiting for. 12 hours later, Min-jun stepped out of the hospital for the first time in 8 days. His men insisted real food, fresh air, just 5 minutes. He went to the cafeteria, ordered coffee and a sandwich he knew he wouldn't eat. That's when he heard the nurses at their station. Did you hear? Woman in 304 died. So tragic. She was pregnant too. Room 304. Lola's room. The coffee cup slipped from Min-jun's hands and shattered on the floor. Min-jun ran. Sprinted down the corridor, shoving past orderlies, his heart in his throat. The nurses at the station looked up in alarm as he crashed toward them. What happened in 304? He demanded, voice raw. They startled backward, eyes wide. Sir, we. Dr. Kim appeared from around the corner. Mr. Park. Thank God. I was just coming to find you. Min-jun grabbed his shoulders. Is she? Tell me. She's awake. The words didn't make sense. The nurses said dead. They said. Relief slammed into him so hard he staggered. Had to catch himself against the wall. She's alive. Yes. Awake and stable. But there's a complication. Terror rushed back in. What complication? Retrograde amnesia. She doesn't remember the accident. Based on our preliminary assessment, she doesn't remember the past year. Possibly longer. Min-jun's mind tried to process this. She was alive. The baby was alive. But she doesn't remember me? We haven't fully assessed the extent yet. But Mr. Park, you should prepare yourself. She may not recognize you. May not remember your relationship at all. His Lola, the woman who'd loved him, who'd hated him, who'd looked at him with such devastation before running into the rain, was gone. Replaced by someone who didn't know she'd ever met him. Can I see her? In a moment. But given her condition, we need to be very careful about what information we present. Stress could harm her and the baby. Perhaps we should assess together how much she remembers before. I understand. I'll be careful. Dr. Kim studied him, seemed to find whatever he was looking for, and nodded. She's confused. Asking for her emergency contact. We have you listed, but she doesn't seem to recognize the name. Let's see what she remembers. They walked down the corridor. Each step felt like walking toward execution. Min-jun was about to see the woman who carried his child, who wouldn't know she'd ever loved him. Or that she had every reason to hate him. They approached room 304. Dr. Kim reached for the door handle. Then the lights cut out. Total darkness swallowed the hospital. For 3 seconds, nothing. No emergency backup, no exit signs. Just absolute black and the sudden silence of machines dying. Then emergency generators kicked in with a grinding roar. Dim red lights flickered to life. Emergency alarms began shrieking throughout the building. From floors below came screams. The sound of shattering glass. Then boots on linoleum. Military precision. Multiple sets. Armed men flooded the corridor from both stairwells. Black tactical gear. Masked faces. Assault rifles raised. Chaos erupted. Min Jun's training overrode everything else. He moved on instinct, disarmed the first attacker with brutal efficiency, broke the man's arm, took his weapon. Shot the second in the kneecap, non-lethal but incapacitating. His security team engaged from their positions, but they were outnumbered. Min Jun had ordered them to come unarmed out of respect for Lola, for the hospital. Now they were fighting hand-to-hand against a professional assault team. Gunfire echoed. His men went down. Not dead, but wounded, bleeding. Min Jun spun toward the third attacker. Freeze or they all die. The third attacker had 6 hospital staff at gunpoint. Nurses, doctors, orderlies, all pressed against the wall with guns to their heads. More armed men were securing the floor, weapons trained on everyone. A figure emerged from the shadows of the stairwell, using a young nurse as a human shield, backing toward the opposite exit. Hello, Min Jun. The voice was electronically distorted, but Min Jun knew it in his bones. It's been too long. Dae-sung. Smart boy. Now stay exactly where you are. Don't move. Don't even breathe funny. Or I start executing people. 1 per second. Starting with this pretty thing. He pressed the gun harder against the nurse's temple. She whimpered, tears streaming down her face. Min Jun was forced to stand completely still. Every muscle screaming to move, to fight, to kill. But too many hostages. Too many guns. His men bleeding on the floor around him. What do you want? What I've always wanted. Your suffering. Your complete destruction. Everything you love turning to ash. Dae-sung continued backing toward the stairwell. 3 years ago, you betrayed me. Walked away from an assignment. Made me look weak. So I poisoned you. Watched you suffer. But you survived. Adapted. Even found happiness. He reached the stairwell door. Can't have that. He shoved the nurse forward violently. Dr. Kim caught her before she fell. The other attackers began backing away, weapons still trained on the hostages. 5 minutes, Min Jun, stay put. Or the killing starts for real. Then they were gone. Doors slamming. Boots echoing down the stairs. Fading into distance. Silence except for sobbing, alarms, his wounded men groaning. Min Jun stood frozen for exactly 2 seconds. Then realization crashed over him like a tidal wave. This wasn't about hostages. Wasn't about killing him. Wasn't about anything except distraction. Lola. He sprinted down the corridor, shoving past frightened staff, jumping over debris. His wounded men tried to follow but couldn't. Burst through the door of room 304. Empty. The hospital bed was stripped. For line torn out, blood drops on the floor where the needle had been ripped free. The window stood open, cold soul night air rushing in. Rain blew in, soaking the floor. He ran to the window, looked down. For floors below, at the service entrance, a black van sat at the loading dock. Rear doors closing. He could see figures inside, one wrapped in a hospital blanket. Small frame. Female. Dark hair. Lola. The van pulled away, tires squealing on wet pavement. Disappearing around the corner into Seoul's night traffic. She was gone. Gone. In 3 seconds, Min Jun Park lost everything. The woman he loves. The child she carries. His entire future. Stolen by the man who spent 3 years planning perfect revenge. Hello, family. Do you want to find out what happens when Lola wakes up believing Chaik is her loving husband? When Dae-sung tells her Min Jun is the monster who killed her father. When the pregnancy shows and she's convinced it's Chaik's baby. When Min Jun finally finds her and she looks at him with fear instead of love. Subscribe now and comment part 2. This isn't just a love story anymore. It's a war. And the battlefield is Lola's mind. Min Jun is coming for his family. And nothing will stop him.